did one of these feet for one of your block-ins, I want you to do this part with a T-square. I'm just roughing it in by hand. And what I want you to do is step 1 and step 2. And step 1 should literally be here, 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 maybe that, and that. Step 1 is not an envelope with bang, 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 bang all around the edges. That is not step 1, all right? I want to make sure you guys are seeing this. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, I think. We'll go there. Okay. So I want to make sure that step 1 is super, super simple. And what you're trying to do is just see these initial big, big shapes. So if I have my envelope, this is my envelope. Essentially, I'm going to envelope every single stage of the block-in. I'm always enveloping. I'm just enveloping smaller and smaller areas. So if I do this, that is suddenly helping me see the size and shape of this. And right now I don't care about how narrow the ankle is at the narrowest point. I'm looking at this big, 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 big area here. And you know, I don't want you to work this dark, but I want you to work this messy to start. I want you to notice that my lines are going way, 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 way fast and huge, right? Because that's how I want my eyes to be moving. And I can't make your eyes do something, but I can make your pencil do something, all right? Step 2, if you start to break it down, look for the medium-sized shapes. So we've got the big shapes, now we'll look for the medium-sized shapes. So no, I'm not going to go in and zoom into the ankle and start going, oh, it goes in and out and in and out and in and out. What I'm going to do is say, how can I break down this shape a little bit more? Next thing I might do might be this, might be this. Now I'm having a feeling for what is the shape of that foot looking like now. Now this is feeling a little tall, this is feeling a little narrow. I could move that over there. I put in my corrections before I erase my mistakes. And so that way I can notice like, oh, this little section feels big. It's very small there. I might want to put in that angle because it's not straight across the bottom. And then I might start guessing how far to move that out. And keep it really, really loose and soft. If I'm pretty sure it needs to be wider, I'll go back in and erase these guys while I look at it and think about it. And every single time I make a shape, I look at it, think about it, compare it. I'm not just jumping to the next thing. I'm asking myself, does this feel like that shape of that foot? Does that feel like the overall width of the whole thing? Now I could bring in the side of this. We've got this vertical line. It's coming from the middle of the ankle down. I could have an angle here. Now I have a problem. Now this point right here is a tippy point, and right here it's a little ledge. So I have to ask myself, how do I fix that problem? Does this line move over? Then I have a little ledge. Is that the answer? Does this line move up? That's another way I can get a ledge. If this line moves up, this line moves up. If that line moves up, this whole shape changes. So what I'm doing is as if I've thrown a stack of pickup sticks or a stack of drinking straws on the floor, and I'm just moving them around and arranging them into shapes, and every time I touch one, it affects all the other ones. So we're moving in a very networked way. So that's how I want you to break down everything. And I'm being really, really dark. I don't want you to draw this dark, but I want you to be this messy because right now at this stage, you don't know if this line's here, 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 here. You don't know if this line's here, 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 here. Keep the drawing vibrating for a really long time, okay? Does that make sense? All right, so step 1, really simple. Step 2, start to break down the bigger shapes. I know every single person can very, very accurately get all these little details in, especially because we can pick up another piece of vellum and trace and copy as much as we want. Basically, you could trace the drawing, I wouldn't know the difference. So it's not so much that I'm looking to see if you've gotten your little details super accurate. The importance of this is seeing that you're building up a process that when you can't measure the details because you're not working flat, and if you're working on a full-size life figure from far away, you can't go up and mechanically measure things. What I want to see is that you're building up a process that's going to help you problem solve, right? So now I'm going to do a couple fruit, same thing. And I've suggested that a lot of people do a couple fruit at home. And so a lot of people are doing 2 fruit. And I'm going to show you what you're doing wrong, and then I'm going to show you how to do it right. And I've described this in a lot of different ways in a lot of different videos. So I might just make this a whole separate little clip and include it on the first introduction to blocking, this little live rough demo. So you can just sort of head you guys off at the pass, because almost every single person is doing this. All right, let me see. It's going to be a little inaccurate because I can't get it all lined up. Okay, we got the envelope. Almost everybody's understanding the envelope. If the object setup is wider than it is tall, the first 2 marks are left and right. That's written on the handout. That's in every video I ever post. Almost every single person does this wrong. It's first day. I know there's a lot to remember. All right, so left and right because it's a wide setup. Left and right. Make your marks the same. I'm just going to do 2 steps for now because that's what I'm focused on. We're all pretty good at the envelope. We get the envelope. What we don't understand is that the envelope is the whole name of the game. The envelope is all we do. We never switch to another mode. We're just enveloping smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's about as much as we need for our envelope. You might want to slice off a corner, but that's about as much as you need for your envelope. You're noticing that the high point is not dead center. It's a little bit over to the right because the pear is a little bit taking up a little more room than the orange. We don't really know how tall it is yet. I don't know. It could be this tall or this short. That's all going to vibrate a lot, but these 2 lines are going to stay exactly the same. We're not going to deviate from those 2 lines. Okay, now I'm going to show you what step 2 is not. Step 2 is not, okay, I've got my envelope. I'm going to do the bad, wrong step 2 down here. To use very blunt language, you're all very talented and working very, very hard, and I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but if I say it gently, everybody ignores me. So I'm going to say it harsh. Don't be bad, don't be wrong. What does that mean? Okay, so we've got our envelope here. This is what I'm seeing people do. You did this in almost every single one of your block-ins, and almost everybody is doing this in every single one of their block-ins until I stop them from doing it. You've got your envelope, and then you start going something like, oh, this little pear does this, it does this, it does this. Sometimes people just stay around the edge. And they go, oh, we've got to go in like this. Little tiny marks all around the outside, which means you are zooming in your eyes and focusing on little details and not seeing the big picture. And you're like, well, I'm doing straight line blocking because I'm using all straight lines. That's not straight line blocking. What you're doing is you're still running your eye, zooming it into a very small area and running your eye all around the outside contour. That is a bad habit, and that's the exact habit that we're trying to break with straight line blocking. This pear looks nothing like that pear there. Even though I've got a little indent, and I've got a little nose, and I've got a little butt, I can even put the little dimple on the butt, I can put in all these little details, and this pear does not look anything like that pear. Right? It's totally the wrong shape, it's totally the wrong angle. This pear is pointing up here, and it's too short and too wide. Right? You might not have noticed that until I put that line in. This line is crucial. We want to do that line much, much earlier. All right, so now I'm going to show you how I would block this in. I've got my envelope. Notice how I do my long lines first. Long line, long line, long line. That helps me see the shape. If I need to, I slice off a couple corners. Short line second. We're going from big to small. Now, first thing I need to ask myself is, what is the way that I can make envelopes of the medium-sized shapes here? Not add detail, not go into detail, but what is the next smaller down shapes that I can draw envelopes from? What I could do, I could just go bang. All that does, it gives me a new envelope for the orange, a new envelope for the pear. I can already see this pear is pointing off in this direction, just like the pear from my angle does from life, and not this direction, right? It's a little more tilted down. I'm already more accurate. This few lines here is more accurate than these detailed lines there, okay? So we want to just see enveloping those medium-sized shapes. And obviously this doesn't look like an orange, so we'll slice off a couple corners. Now, that's step 2. That's all you got to do. You can adjust it at that point, but I don't want any more detail at that point. This little nose of the pear is looking small and pointy. All that means is that my envelope line was a little high. I can drop it down. Look what I have here. That probably should have been my first envelope line. If I slice that off and erase that, I'm not adding more detail, I'm just making the big shapes more simplified, okay? So that's step 2. That's all you have to do. I don't care that there's a little dimple in the butt of this pear. I don't care that it has a little shoulder shape here. We're going to work on that later. What we care about at this point is whether this pear feels like a box that pear could fit into. What I'm noticing now is this shape feels not quite right. I'm not going to add more detail to make it right, but I'm going to consider maybe this whole line comes down. This might come in. Now that feels more like the shape of this pear. I'm going to drop that down as well a little tiny bit. And that might mean the top of this drops down. Not adding more detail, just moving things around a little bit, trying to make these big general shapes look like those shapes up there. All right? So anybody who's working on blocking right now, if you set up, I want you to, these objects like this are great, set up 2 simple objects, organic objects, not symmetrical objects. Work big and messy. I want your lines to extend beyond everything. Longer, 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 longer. If you think this is long, that is not long. This is long. It's got to stick out on either side. I know it seems mechanical and arbitrary, but the whole point is to get your eyes to do that. If you're doing this, if you're drawing a subline going from here to here, and not overlapping, what that's telling me is that you're staring at this point and staring at this point and drawing a line between them. That is zooming your eyes in and staring. That's not scanning. Okay? All right. I've taught that probably 3,000 times. So if I sound a little intense, it's because it's already on video and I've already gone over all this a lot. But I know it's really hard, and I know it's like it's probably the hardest thing to do because it's changing automatic habits. So I have great empathy and sympathy for those of you who are learning it and still learning it. It's really, really hard. But getting people from drawing like this, really careful and small and precise and incorrect, to drawing like this, big shapes that are more correct, is like pushing you off a cliff. Because we all want to draw well, right? We all really, really want to do a good drawing. And so we tend to draw really detailed and careful and controlled so that we can get a really detailed drawing. But that's not actually helping us be more accurate. So we got to kind of loosen up.